the biggest problem is that even if you have an incredible support system of friends and family that can understand you, can give you advice and can help you and can give you a good word, the thing is that at the end of the day, you are on your own building this thing, thinking of all the investments that you have to do. The final decisions, it's you that you take them. So of course you're on your own, and even if you have all these people to share all of these things together, if you don't have people like these amazing women next to me to share your struggle with, you're going to feel very lonely.
Welcome to another episode of Startup Stories, the monthly event that aims to inspire you with inspiring stories from entrepreneurs themselves. We chat with them about their journey, their challenges and experiences. My name is Rachel and I'm the host of Startup Stories. Today we're hosted by The Nine, which is a beautiful, beautiful building. I've been literally walking around the whole thing with my mouth wide open. So if anybody is close by, I would really advise you to come by. It's in the centre of Brussels, really close to Central Station and the European District. We're joined by a live audience. We'll be taking questions at the end. And for people following online, live streaming on Facebook, ask any questions in the chat and we'll also address them at the end. Today I'm joined by three incredible ladies sitting here next to me. First of all, Radhika Singh. Born and raised in New Delhi, Radhika is a former trade and competition lawyer who moved to Brussels in 2015 to be with her Belgian-Greek husband. Pursuing a radical career change, she founded Indikon in 2021, which is a textile studio that designs and handcrafts textiles for you and your home. The first edition brings together Indian craft techniques with Greek design and aesthetics. Indikon embodies Radhika's story of living between different cultures, honoring Indian craft and craftsmanship while exploring Greek traditions through design. Radhika aims to combine her business with her legal education and is working towards providing legal aid to the artisan communities that she partners with. Welcome, Radhika. We're also joined by Georgia Brooks, founder and CEO of The Nine, the first female-focused members club in Belgium, and the Nine Equality Initiative in 2020, inspired by the many incredible women and associations she's encountered in Belgium. Based in Brussels, she is a passionate advocate for women's rights and gender equality. Since 2017, she's also founder and managing director of the FemPower Initiative, a non-profit organization under the auspices of the King Baudouin Foundation that supports healthcare and education projects for girls and young women throughout the Middle East. Georgia is British-Canadian Lebanese and grew up between the UK, Canada and Egypt. She studied ancient history in England, and during her undergraduate studies, she spent 1 year at the University of Bologna as part of the Erasmus program. In addition to her native English, Georgia speaks French, Italian, Egyptian, and in honor of her adopted country is learning Flemish. Welcome, Georgia. Wow. And today's speakers are concluded by Aspassia Tagliente, founder and designer who launched her brand in February 2019 in Brussels. Inspired by mermaids who represent the divine feminine energy and the true power of female spirit, Aspassia puts at the center of her philosophy the woman of today and the woman of the future. Aspassia developed a loud and elegant aesthetic, designing unexpected silhouettes with dynamic colors that give character to bags. An aesthetic refined throughout the years, starting from her childhood, looking at her mother, then honed during her studios of fashion management in Bocconi and her experience working for Chanel. let's get to know our speakers a little bit more. So, Radhika, you have
Hi.
taken an unusual journey from lawyer to this textiles brand. Can you tell us a bit about your journey and how it's led you to where you are today?
Hi, thanks for having me here. It's a really loaded question. So we're like totally diving into this, I see. I studied in Rajasthan, and Rajasthan has a very strong textile tradition, and like different parts of the communities kind of come together to make one piece of fabric. I find that absolutely beautiful, and I've always loved textiles. It's been like my first love, and I have a family background, and it's kind of in my DNA, entrepreneurship. So I always felt that if I wanted to do something of my own, it would always be with textiles. And when I moved here, I realized that so many of the things that we consume here, whether it's for our home, for our clothing, it's made in countries like mine, in the global south. And I felt that the stories of who was making it, where it was being made, what was the process was kind of missing. So I really wanted to highlight that, and which is what led me to start Indikon. I also do not want to give up law. I do want to give like legal aid to the artisans that I work with. So that's like totally in the process of like kind of combining my love with my education. So yeah.
Wow, very inspiring. And you know, although you're still using the two, did you encounter any criticism or difficulty going from being a lawyer to entrepreneur?
Um, I don't think so. Like I said, I have a family business. Most of my family do run their own businesses, and I mean, Indians kind of value entrepreneurship, so I never really had, this kind of, okay, don't do this. Everyone was pretty much rooting for me. I did, however, face that, okay, fine, the route that you're taking is probably not the best. But I don't look at this as criticism. I look at this as like, you need to have a discussion about things to be able to see that, okay, do I really want to do this or not? Or you also kind of stick to your ideals whenever there's some like an opposing view. I feel like it's really important to have like that kind of a sounding board. But no, I don't think I face criticism.
Okay. And did you have any previous knowledge about the textile industry other than the passion and the interest that you had?
Not really, not really. Like I said, I just studied I did my undergraduation, my LLB in Jodhpur. Like I said, that lots of textiles are made there, made traditionally, and I worked a lot with artisans then as a lawyer, and I feel like that was like kind of my, way to get into, textiles. But other than that, nothing really.
You just followed your passion and your love for it. Oh, that's lovely. Georgia, can you tell us a bit more about the Nine, about what you do and who it's for?
With pleasure. So, welcome to the Nine, members in the live audience and members on the stage. So, the Nine is the first female focused members club with a clubhouse, just to be clear, in Belgium. So, this is where we are now. We've been open for a year and a half. And those of you who have entered have seen downstairs we have a bar and restaurant. Upstairs, we have more co working spaces, meeting rooms, and we hold a number of events around gender equality. So, my background before I launched the Nine was, of course, the FemPower Initiative, which is a non-profit for girls and women in the Middle East. And I was really looking with what can I do in Brussels that can also help women, but of course in a very, very different context with very different needs. And I saw that when it comes to equality, we are obviously lacking in many areas. Here, again, very different to the challenges that women are facing in other parts of the world, but they are challenges nonetheless. So that was my idea. It grew from initially more of a professional focus and more of a business angle into I think, broad spectrum club. So we hold events on all topics from personal development, arts and culture, to professional topics, with the underlying thread being gender equality, women's empowerment, and how the two come together. Because often when you're talking about women's issues, and I say that with inverted commas, women's issues, they think, oh, that's equality. No, actually, equality is for everyone. It's not just a women's issue. And so while the focus on membership is for anyone who identifies as female or non-binary, everyone is welcome at the Nine. So that's us.
Lovely. And how was it that the idea came then to start something up? And how was it as an expat specifically then start something in a different country and here in Brussels?
How much time have we got? Okay, let's break that down. So the idea came to me back actually in 2000, I think in 17, 18, when women's clubs were opening around the world. So I saw them opening up in other parts of the world with great examples in mostly, let's say, Anglo-Saxon countries like the UK, like the US. Although actually, Spain has had one as well since I think even before that, so in 2016. And now there are only 3 in continental Europe, with the 9 being one. So I saw this example and I thought to myself, how hard can it be to open a business in Brussels? Spoiler alert. Harder than you might think. And it is true that as an expat, you're quite correct in asking that question, because as an expat, there are perhaps quirks and idiosyncrasies that are quite unique to Brussels. Namely, for example, which language will you acquire your permits, or will you enter your documents? Now, I speak French, so that was not a problem. However, I was advised by many in the business consultancy world, if you would like your documents to be treated quicker rather than later, it is better to actually apply in Flemish. So these were situations where I had to learn really as I went along, and I made some mistakes at the beginning, as you always do when you're trying out and you don't know the lay of the land, quite literally. I'm very lucky that I have a partner who is a Flemish lawyer, so I was very well advised on what to do and what not to do. But even then, there's only so much advice you can take/give before you have to do it yourself.
Oh, very interesting. Aspassia, can you tell us a little bit more about your brand and how it's evolved?
So I started my brand in 2019. I created it after I had my experience when I was working for Chanel. I wanted to see how a company works in its 360 degrees, and I realized that when you actually work for a business in a specific department, you just see that specific department, and I couldn't see better how it worked, everything. So I had this dream since always, and I said, either I do it now that I'm still pretty young, or I will never do it again. And so I launched myself, and slowly, after a lot of research, and basically I took 1 year before I launched officially, legally, the company, in doing research on production, products, everything there is to learn about leather, because I am building a luxury brand specifically in luxury leather goods, so handbags at the moment, with the hope of doing a total look and having a global fashion brand in the future. And so slowly I took a lot of courses. I took 1 year where I did a lot of research, and then I launched it, and I started with the samples. I did the photo shoots, I launched the company, and now I've been at my 4th year where I'm still continuing to build it.
Wow. And what has your biggest challenge been up till now? Or something maybe that others wouldn't expect?
So there are many challenges, I have to be honest. Some are bigger, some are smaller, some are on a personal point of view, some are as an entrepreneur, professional. So I'll try and break it down in some pieces. Let's say as an entrepreneur, my biggest challenge at the moment is to find and build a loyal database and a loyal customers and a community. This is the most difficult, basically, to find customers. This is my biggest challenge at the moment. Of course, when you imagine that you're building a luxury brand in the competing world that we're living right now, it almost feels as it is mission impossible to reach the competition. But of course, I take it step by step, and I break down my work into boxes, and I do it into pieces. So the biggest right now, from an entrepreneur point of view, it's the community, the customers, the sales. From a designer point of view, it's especially when I create a new design, I have done a lot of mistakes from the very beginning when I created something that it was pretty to look at but not comfortable to wear, or with a lot of mistakes in the design. And I always want to think of women and create designs that actually are not only beautiful to look at but also very comfortable to wear. So I had to accept that I would never have the best result with the first trial, and that everything takes time and work. And so I had to redesign, change a lot of my designs, and correct my mistakes, basically. And finally, the biggest challenge for me, which is more on a personal level, let's say, it's the feeling of loneliness. So maybe a lot of the people do not really see it, because when you see us, our lives, also when you see a lot of our social media, you have and imagine this beautiful lifestyle of trips and travels and events and meeting people, but you forget that we are building something on our own. And so we have to fight a lot of the times our own mind and our self-limiting doubts that we put. And so this is the most difficult. Of course, you have to find solutions, because the biggest problem is that even if you have an incredible support system of friends and family that can understand you, can give you advice and can help you and can give you a good word, the thing is that at the end of the day, you are on your own building this thing, thinking of all the investments that you have to do, the final decisions, it's you that you take them. So of course you're on your own, and even if you have all these people to share all of these things together, if you don't have people like these amazing women next to me to share your struggle with, you're going to feel very lonely. So my solution was to come to this club, and I met amazing people that can actually share my struggles, and that was great.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. So it's been an inspiration already, and the nine has succeeded in that sense of bringing women together.
Well, that was the point, really. And I think it's, it's in action we're seeing this play out. And it's true that loneliness was number one factors that I set up the nine to for me personally. And it is true there are a lot of women who are just very lonely. It could be personally or professionally when you're here as an expat or not. And if you're working alone or independently, where do you go? Who do you meet if you don't have those circles or communities?
And Radhika, being in a somewhat similar industry, have the challenges been similar for you as well?
I can identify 100% with everything that Aspassia said. And the loneliness, it's strange that when you meet people who are also feeling the same thing, you shouldn't find comfort in that, because that's so strange that, oh my God, that's like somebody who I met is also feeling really alone, is feeling isolated, and is struggling, but you find comfort in that. But that has kind of helped me see that, I'm not alone, and there are a lot of people who are also going through the struggle, and you can actually talk about your struggles. That's been really nice. The nine has been really amazing for that. And also regarding the product development, it was pretty much the same thing, because I don't come from a fashion industry. So I was really learning everything myself. I don't like to call it a fashion industry. I don't work mostly with fashion. I work mostly with home. But yeah, you have to test out everything. You're also responsible for everything yourself. But one of the things that I think I struggled really as an Indian running a business here is I never even imagined that I would face something like this, is the fact that my brand is based out of Belgium. I have a Belgian VAT number. I pay my taxes in Belgium. I pay my VAT, which is 21% in Belgium, but I'm still not considered a Belgian brand. And I feel like this was something that I was just not prepared for. It was, you imagine everything else, the loneliness, you have to work, do everything yourself. You're a social media manager one day, you're a marketing manager one day, you're dealing with customers on another day. This is something that I did, and it occupied a lot of my time, just trying to tell people, I know I manufacture in India, but so do so many other brands. And what I'm trying to do here right now is really tell you where it's coming from. Let's collaborate. Because for me, that's the answer to so many of the problems that we're facing in the world today. But I don't think I have an answer today that how do I deal with this? Yeah. But I think this is my biggest struggle. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody told me that you founded Indikon with your mother. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And how does she work with you? How do you work together? Has she been a support in that feeling of loneliness?
My mom's my biggest inspiration. I feel that when she quit her job, she actually started working with me to form Indikon. And I felt like that was so beautiful, that just because you retired, life's not over. And, it's from her that I get the love of textiles, because I saw her get ready every day in the morning wearing a sari, which was made in like this traditional technique. And I was like, wow, she's my inspiration. We did everything together. But today she's kind of taken a backseat. She's more like still my guiding light on what I want to do, but on the bigger decisions. And yes, it does help. But in the end of the day, she's in India and I'm here. And there is a time difference. So it's, our struggles are very different. But she's very much a part of it, just on, the bigger issues and not the day-to-day working.
It's nice to have that reflection moment together. Okay, cool. Um, Georgia or Aspassia, how do you bring your previous experiences into being a womanpreneur? Is there something that you say that has helped me or that has held me back in any way?
So my experience at Chanel for me was incredible, and it was an incredible school to start my own business. First of all, for the domain and the actual work, the project, so luxury, the luxury industry. I think at Chanel, I really learned, I was working at events, so organizing the fashion shows for our best clients. And I learned there from just writing the perfect email that you should write. You should be able to write, because when you are Chanel, you represent luxury. So I learned from just the basics from an email to how do you actually talk to these clients. And so for me, that was an incredible school that really helped me today understand which direction my brand has to take, what's relating to image, what kind of image I want to have for my brand, et cetera, et cetera. So that was an incredible school for the luxury industry. It also helped me a lot to work in events, because when you work for events, you work under pressure, days and nights, in weekends. You have a lot of last minute things that change and you have to just find solutions. So that was also incredible, because at the end of the day, this is my job today. So I basically work days and nights in weekends, and I also have to solve problems. Our job is to just solve problems every day, I imagine. So it was a great help in all senses, to be honest.
So those event organisers out there, you're perfect for entrepreneurship. And for you, Georgia?
Well, interesting. So I had two careers before I launched the Nine. One, as I said, in human rights, women's rights in the Middle East. And then before that, I was a legal editor in the UK, having worked in legal journalism. So on the women's rights side, certainly that definitely informed what I wanted to do with the Nine, some of the event topics, and certainly this idea of not being purely for profit, which is why we also set up the Equality Initiative. So that was a huge driver and a great help. Being a legal editor, being a journalist, not so much, actually. Why I say that? Well, one, because I was used to working under very tight deadlines, and I was the boss. So I really had to push myself and my team to meet very strict timings. We would work under pressure with very high-powered individuals. Yeah, that doesn't really work so much in Brussels. So it's a different rhythm here. And two, when you're working with law in business, particularly law, you are, and Radhika can probably confirm, you are much more focused on the problems, and it's much more risk averse. So actually you don't approach it from a more wide angle as you probably should in entrepreneurship. And so I was approaching it like, oh, this is a problem, oh, that's going to be a problem, what do I do here? As opposed to, this is an opportunity, this is a great opportunity, this is a gap, how can I make this my own? So it was two sides of the same coin. On the one hand, as I said, women's rights was a great opener, but the legal business background actually sometimes I think held me back a little.
Oh, that's super insightful. Okay, talking a little bit more about womenpreneurship specifically, Georgia, with the Fem Power initiative, I'm super interested to know, are there any common trends that you can share with us, struggles that perhaps there are some similarities between Middle East and here, or differences, how women overcoming these challenges and struggles?
That's a great unifier. Women do overcome the struggles. The struggles will be very different, but it is true that the universality is that we do overcome them. Fempower is extremely different to the Nine. I'm dealing with girls and young women who are being pushed into marriage at 14 years old, who have usually undergone FGM. So it's very hard for me to relate that to the Nine. But at the end of the day, what I do see is this need and joy from a sisterhood or a community. And so what we do with Fempower is really support them in really basic health and education projects and almost offer a little escape. And I like that word escape because someone actually said that to me last week at the Nine, that the Nine is their escape. Now, it's quite sad to think that we live in a world where we need an escape, but it's nice to know that we have one all the same.
Oh, that's really nice. Radhika, what were your, did you have any obstructive thoughts, destructive thoughts? You know, were you just, I've heard this very often in the past talking to other womenpreneurs, you know, that we kind of self-destruct ourselves by saying, I can't do this, I'm never going to be able to get there. Were there any things that happened in your mind that you came across?
Absolutely. I also think it's a personality thing. I'm like the first person who always second guesses myself, and literally in everything that I do. I have trouble ordering food and I just like wait till like somebody orders the cocktail and I'll be like, yeah, me too. So yeah, I just think it's a personality thing. But yes, definitely, I've always felt that I can't do this. But on the other hand, I always feel like, tell me I can't do it and I'll do it. It's weird, but I've always kind of, just kind of overcome that by, okay, just because I can't do it, I'll find a way to do it.
Yeah. Often when somebody tells me you're not going to be able to do it, it
Yeah.
makes me even more determined
Yeah, and it's
to
strange,
do
right?
it.
And like, it's also about finding a solution that when people say that, okay, fine, you're not Belgian brand, and I'm like, I'll prove you how I am. Or, you can't work in India and be sustainable, and like, I'll tell you how I can. It's been strange, but yeah, I think that's been like kind of like my guiding wrong. I don't know, but it's kind of worked. But yeah.
Aspassia, has there been anybody that you could count on for help other than here at the Nine, or that has been help, mentoring you or guiding you at all?
Well, so I don't know if anyone knows this, but when I first started, I actually started the research part with a really close friend of mine, and we did all of the big research that you start from scratch together. So having a support to start with, that was, I think, an invaluable help, because once then I had to continue on my own. Then basically I didn't have to face the unknown, because when you start, it's the unknown, total unknown. So I didn't have to face it on my own, and so that was actually amazing. I felt a lot like much more courage to talk to people, just go around and learn from one person to the other. So that was very, very important. Afterwards, of course, I think I mentioned before, I have a really great support system with friends, family that help me out a lot. Everyone is there whenever I need them to just help however they can, of course. And I also have my mother that helps me a lot. I also, now she retired, and I also told her, well, you're going to be my intern soon, I think. I don't know if she's listening now. But I think she's one of the people that can help me out, from advice to even legal advice, because she was legal before. So she can help me out with everything from packaging to advice to if I want to complain or just have someone to talk to about the issues of the day. I have my mother as well, but rather than like on the side of that, it's just on my own.
Okay. And Georgia, a lot of things, or one of the other things that I've been hearing talking to other womenpreneurs is very often like we think we have to do it all ourselves and we don't ask for help. We just, plod on. We think, okay, I'm going to sort it out. I'm going to figure it out. And that's just like a natural thing, like, but I'm doing it myself. Did you dare ask for Did you ask for the help that you needed? Did you?
Well, spoiler alert, I'm 3 days post-surgery and I'm here. So, no. I haven't been very good at asking for help ever. Maybe call me a typical only child, and growing up pretty independently. That's not necessarily in my personality card deck. But I will say, for the Nine, I couldn't have done it without my husband, not only for the legal and business advice, but just having a soundboard. And I think, as Aspassia was saying, having someone that you can rant to or ask the questions that you would want to ask yourself, but just having that echo is extremely helpful. But don't do as I do. Please don't do this. This is not healthy. I was saying this earlier, like, I should not be here. You really do need to have a strong network around you that you can rely on. Actually, that is, I think, the sign of the most successful entrepreneurs. And it is perhaps a symptom of society that women feel that we have to do it all. I don't know if you saw this, that women are held, well, in general, when we come to leadership, we are held to a different standard. Women are not allowed to fail. If we fail, the whole of femalehood fails. If a man fails, he was just a bad manager. So there is this imbalance for sure, and we take it upon ourselves a lot. And I think we can let that go, if I'm honest. I don't do it myself, but I think others should let that go.
Okay. I'm also curious, we all have our down days, we all have our negative days. What do you do when you're having a down day? What advice can you give to others? You say, this is how I either pick myself up or I do not, or especially what you say.
I'm gonna go first. Okay, so honest, I've had my cry days. It's normal, I guess. But okay, so for me, it's very important, as Georgia said before, the echo, to hear it. So to take it out. I need a good talk with someone, whether it's a friend or someone else. sometimes so I'm going to take it from the base. At university, they tell you all of these amazing theories that if you do this, this, and that, you're going to have this, this, and that result. Then you arrive in the real world and you start your business, and then you do this, this, and that, and you have like zero result, like nothing works. So at some point, you think, okay, you arrive at a point where you have this dream, you believe in your dream, but then you don't believe anymore because you don't know how to like push it anymore. That you in your mind, you arrive at a point where you feel like you have absolutely no other solutions because you've tried everything and nothing works. So you need for even just a little while someone else to believe for you, whether it's your husband, wife, companion, mother, dog, I don't know, someone that is gonna take the responsibility for you and say, you know what, it's okay, everything is gonna be okay, you've got it, you can just continue. I think this is very important because sometimes, you enter into this, I say in Italian, loop mentale. It's like you never stop to think, and it's just you have to get out of this. So a good talk can help a lot. Practically, what I do is I cut for myself every day 1 hour to walk on the treadmill and watch a really fun series, something very light, very just to detach my brain, and then I can go back into work.
Oh, good advice. Thank you. Radhika or Georgia, do you have any tips on what you do?
I agree with Aspassia. You need somebody to vent, and for me, that's my husband. And it's really, he has a day job, and then he comes back and he has to listen to me rant about my business. And it's somebody that I heard here at the 9, and that person said that, "Are you doing a business alone?" And that person said, "No, 90% is me and 10% is my partner." And actually, that was it. Whether it's your partner, whether it's your friend, you need somebody who's invested in you and not your business, because your well-being is also important. And I feel like we forget that when we're running a business because we're so busy taking care of and like kind of problem solving every day that we forget that we are supposed to take care of ourselves. And that's when you need somebody to kind of pick you up and say that, hey, you're amazing and you've got this. And I think that really helps me, and also friends. Like I feel like and the series I'm talking about because because for me I feel like, like running a business is so different every day. I need something that I can count on, and like I know exactly what's going to happen because I watched that episode 400 times and I know the dialogue, so I know that, I know exactly what's going to happen and it's in my control. So yeah, that's what kind of picks me up.
That's the one I watch on the treadmill as well.
That's something we didn't know.
We are showcasing our generation here.
Georgia, any other tips?
Well, I walk my dog, so that's a huge stress reliever. And I think anyone who has a pet knows just the power and the passion they can bring to your life. I get outside with my dog. I tend to walk her to our favorite coffee place. Shout out to Buddy Buddy. Get a nice oat milk flat white and walk home, and that's it. And honestly, just half an hour outside of the house, away from my computer, fresh air, in the company of the most loving creature in the world is enough to just jolt you back to life.
Thank you. Are there any other specific routines, whether it's daily or not, that you've put into practice as being womanpreneur? Something also that I recently been reading up on is that we live in a male-timed daily construction of a 9 to 5, and we're very cyclical. We can't 1 week is very different to another week.
Actually, women need more sleep than men, so that's also a very important point. Hormonally, we need 8 to 9 hours at least sleep. Yes, and men can get away with 7. So that's actually scientific proof that we do not live in a healthy rhythm for ourselves.
So is there anything else that you guys have realized or put into practice in your routines or in your schedules that have helped you?
I'll take this because I did actually I did follow the advice of Goop a couple of years ago, and I started keeping a gratitude journal, which I know sounds pretty out there, but it does help every now and then to write down at the beginning of the day not only what you're grateful for, but what you want to achieve. And once you see it in writing, it doesn't have to be a lot, 2 or 3 things. It does help to clarify your thought process and where you want to go, rather than thinking, oh this is so hard, I've got so much to do. I know both of you have, everything from product design to logistics to social media. It can be overwhelming. But once you take it down to bite-sized parcels, and today it could almost be, I want to finish this event form. I want to finish this album that we need to publish for whoever. It helps to clarify your thought processes.
And clear your head, I find. When I've written just every day a little post-it with a few things I want to get done, that it's very much like, okay, get it out of my head, that I'm not going over those 3 things every single 5 minutes.
I think it's important to create your own routine, because when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have the structure of a company that gives you the routine. So you have a lot of freedom, which is very positive for your own schedule to do also other things on the side. But it can be very bad also, because if you cannot organize yourself, you can get really lost really easily. For me, it's important to have a routine, especially when I do a lot of trips. For example, I go to Italy, to Florence to see my production, and then I come back, and then I have presentations, and then I come back, and then it's up and down. I feel like my brain is just all over the place. So I actually need to do things. I've read one time at an article that said that when you feel very overwhelmed and a little chaotic in your head, it's good if you start just organizing your room or a space in your house, and suddenly even your ideas will be much more organized. And it actually works, because you need to in some way organize your outside life, and then suddenly even your ideas will be much organized and clear, and you'll have a clearer vision. So I think this is important, to create and be also strict on your own routine, because it's complicated to be all over the place.
Radhika, do you have anything to add?
I don't have a routine, and I've come to kind of accept that and that has really changed my life. It's kind of like how you said that, you know, you're doing something different every day, and your one week looks very different from your next. And I've accepted the fact that I can decide to go for a massage at 10 o'clock in the morning and not worry about not having something to do, because I run my own business, and that's fine. I've prioritized doing this at this time because that's the only time that I found living in Brussels, because it's hard to get an appointment. But I've also learned to kind of accept that that's what comes with entrepreneurship. You're prioritizing work, but also your holidays or your time off is also, you know, your own, you're setting your own rules. And I like that, and I've kind of come to accept that. I love that, you know, my one day is different from the other, and that's also the beauty of entrepreneurship. You're constantly learning, and, you know, like defining your days. And that's it. I just think that I've kind of come to an acceptance.
One thing I want to add is the power of the out of office or the automatic response, actually. So I used to think that emails had to come in and be received immediately. That's probably, as I said, back to my former career where things had to be done immediately and responded to and treated. And actually, no, they don't. And someone else's emergency is not your urgency. That was one of the best pieces of advice I ever had. And to just put a boundary there with an out of office, either you're saying, you know, high volume of emails, I'm currently unavailable, whatever it is, you have a placeholder in place, you can then take a breath and then respond in your own time.
Good advice for the people online. um, going on a little bit more about product and service development. Aspassia, you mentioned already before that, you know, it's a very competitive market and it feels really difficult, you know, how you're getting in there and how you're making your statement. How have you, you know, developed what it is that is unique about yourself, and how indeed you differentiate yourself from the other brands?
This is a question that a lot of people usually ask about differentiation and what do I do that it's different. I've come to accept that I don't have to necessarily be completely different, because creating a bag, it's kind of basic and not simple, but I mean, it's basic. I cannot create a bag where a papagallo perroquet comes out and says good morning. So I mean, the innovation is pretty much it's pretty much limited. But I am creating a product. So the fashion industry, I think a lot of people do not talk about this, but the fashion industry is one of the, let's say, worst industries on our planet, that they are ruining a lot of different departments, going from labor to material to sustainability to pollution to touching mostly all of the departments of our society. And I think that instead of bringing in new companies, or instead of promoting old companies from fast fashion, for example, we should bring in new companies that actually try and create something nice for our environment, nice for our people, and bring something positive in society. So I think this is where I can differentiate myself and bring new ideas, younger ideas, and talk honestly about the fashion industry, because no one really talks about it. And we still all dress and we still wear clothes. Some people say, yeah, but I don't care about fashion. Yeah, but you are dressed up today. So somewhere you got these clothes, someone made them for you. And we have to ask ourselves, who made these clothes, how much were they paid, why am I buying €5 a t-shirt? The material doesn't even cost, like it costs much more to make a t-shirt, so why am I buying this so cheap? We have to really ask ourselves these questions because we're all involved and we're all wearing clothes, so we have to do this. And for me, it's important to bring in new practices, not innovative practices, but practices that maybe other bigger companies are not really applying on their own businesses. So it's important to think of sustainability. I work, for example, with dead stock. So I create my bags from leather that has been, first of all, leather that comes from the food industry. So it's already used leather. It exists. And also dead stock means that you take it from the bigger companies, the bigger fashion companies, that they have overproduction, they don't use it, all of it, and so they give it to stockists, and then smaller companies like mine, we take it. This means that it's amazing quality, and it's also smaller qualities, and you don't produce more on this planet that I think we have already enough. And so I try to bring in different practices. Another one that I do, it's from when we create the bags and the samples or the little productions that I do, the leather, so we cut the bags and you have the scraps leather on the side. And so we take those, we don't throw away anything, and we recreate smaller items such as card holders, keychains, little pouches. And so we reuse everything, and nothing goes to waste. So.
Oh, it's an inspiring story. And I think there's definitely a lot more attention now. There's a lot more consciousness with the consumers, first of all. And there's definitely a lot more question, I think, for much more local and personal stories from a brand and from the products that we're buying. So that's great. Radhika, for you, is there, I'm curious to know, how did you determine or find your audience and your consumers?
Well, like you said, the market is just full of so many things. There are so many brands, and it's really hard to find an audience or your customer base. But I feel like my story is my niche. It's really my personal story. It's where we use traditional Indian craft techniques. I'm Indian. My husband is Greek, so I'm completely inspired by Greece. And we're based out of here in Belgium and my brand is based out of here in Belgium. So my story is very unique, and my products are hence really very unique. I work with, if you buy something from Indikon, we do guarantee that we tell you exactly who's made it, how much they're paid, what their story is, and the textiles that go in, as well as the inspiration that goes in. And I feel that that is a change which the world is kind of moving towards, as we also heard from Aspassia right now, because that's how she's also planning a brand for the future. Because these are the things that you kind of need to focus on. And I feel like people kind of expect this today, because you can't want to change and not change your consumption patterns. And I feel like there are brands which are willing to go the step further to kind of answer these questions, and there is a customer base which is looking for things like this.
Great. And for you, Georgia, the 9 was something quite unique in itself, as you already mentioned. So I am curious then, for you, was it not a challenge to get your audience here, to educate them on what the 9 is and what it does, and to basically get your audience in?
Yeah, it was a challenge certainly before I had the house. So certainly when you're going around with a concept like the 9, as I was doing back in 2019, 2020, explaining to people or asking them to join me in this adventure in some form or another, everyone was like, a members club for women. I'm like, yeah, like all the gentlemen's clubs. And they're like, oh yeah, but for women. I'm like, yeah. So I guess, whenever you're doing something new, you're bound to come against a little resistance. And I had a lot, so okay, that's what it was. But I will say, once the house took shape, and I'm fortunate that in the audience we have one of our advisory board members whom I invited to come and see the house before we launched. And I think once you've been in and once you see it, it makes sense. Again, not without its challenges or questions. We still have, even to this day, questions. Why do we exist? I'm thinking, why does anything exist? Well, why do women need this? Why not? And I was very lucky that at the beginning, before the club even opened, we had a lot of positive press, which was very nice. Thank you, Belgium. And so a lot of the audience did come to us, and it's been growing not only through press and social media, but really through word of mouth. And I think that's actually, both of you, how you heard about the club is really from people who have been here, experienced it, either members or non-members. I have a lot of members who were recommended to join the club by their husbands or their sons or brothers. So, you know, we have a very strong male allyship as well, which is great, because I think male, female, all genders can recognize that it is nice to be in a space where you feel valued and safe and secured and uplifted and empowered, etc., etc. And why shouldn't we share that with the people we care about?
Lovely. Okay, I'm seeing that we're coming close to the end of our timing, so I wanted to first open up to our live audience here. Are there any questions that you'd like to ask these ladies? Very inspiring ladies. Anybody here? Yes, go ahead. I'm just going to repeat the question for the people following online. So if people ask you, how is your business doing? How does that question get received by you? How does it make you feel, and what do you often answer?
I get asked this question on a daily basis. And honestly, it's something that I'm prepared for, because this is also like a chance for me to talk about what I do. And it's somebody who's interested in finding out what I want to do. And I don't look at it as a negative thing. I look at it always as a positive thing, that how is your business doing? It's also, we always want to, I feel like our lives are divided into personal and professional lives. And that's all that we talk about, either our kids, our dogs, when we go out with our friends, or our work. And this is my chance to kind of talk about my business. I look at it very positively. I like it. I love talking about I'm very passionate about what I do. And it was like when we started this, I was like, please tell me when to stop, because I feel like I will not stop talking about what I do and why I do what I do. So I think that, no, I really like talking about what I do. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing.
So like Radhika, I get this question, I think, every day. I think, yes, it's a great question. And I always try to answer very honestly, because I don't think I have anything to hide, to be honest. So what my answer is always, image-wise, it's going amazing, because from the moment I started to today, I have created something amazing. Today I'm talking to you like I never talk like this in front of my friends or family. Whenever they say, "Oh wow, congratulations, you've done this and that," I'm such a perfectionist. I always say, "Yeah, it's okay, it doesn't matter. We need more." Of course, I know that I've accomplished many different things, and it's amazing. But again, I repeat, it's image-wise. A company to start, especially my company, in the competition that I'm talking about before, of the luxury industry, I need a lot of time to stabilize myself, make my name known to people, find even more customers. And so sales-wise, it can go much better. And it's not at the level I would like it to be. So of course, it goes okay, because if I'm here today talking to you, it means that I'm selling and I'm kind of stable in some way. But some months are better, some months are not that good. So it's a long process, and I'm still going to be here until the end.
So I get this question a lot. And sometimes people aren't even polite enough to ask how's business doing. I've been asked, so are you profitable? From someone I don't know. First time meeting at the clubhouse, are you profitable? And I love the optimism coming from my ladies on the panel, but I can be honest, I don't think they're always asking from a positive perspective, nor are they wanting a positive answer. So I'm also prepared, like Radhika, but I usually have a couple of stock phrases. And I always ask, would you ask me that question if I was a man? I don't think so.
Nice. Okay. Other questions here in the audience? I saw some hands going up. Yeah, go ahead. Okay.
I just take a sick day. It's my business. I can take a sick day because I work Saturdays, I work Sundays. And it's easier said than done to say that, you know, my work week is Monday to Friday, but that's just not possible when you're running your business and you're doing everything by yourself. So when I'm down, I just take a sick day. And I feel like it's been a while. Like I have been doing this since 2021 September. And I can say this today that yes, I have no problem in taking a sick day. I don't mind crying. I don't mind just sitting in my bed and being like, today I'm just gonna watch TV, because tomorrow I know I have to deal with a lot and different things every day. So yeah, I'm happy taking a sick day. and to just check out from my business, because there's something that's happening all the time and it's really fast-paced. So you need that time to yourself to be like, bye world, I'll be back tomorrow.
Same for me. I cut out some time. I think it's important what you said before with emails. I think it's important to understand and put this in your head as well, that if today I don't answer to that email so fast, nothing bad is going to happen in this world. No one really cares at the end of the day. So if I answer tomorrow, it's still okay. Nothing breaks down. So I think we have to put that in our minds and just take time to cut to yourself and do, like before we said, a walk or something to detach your brain, and then you can go back again.
Could maybe learn something from the Spanish culture. Mañana, 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 mañana.
I have this in my cultures.
Yeah, there you go.
I was going to say, I think many cultures have this. Welcome to Egypt. My top tip actually is to create, if you don't have a personal board. So I'm very lucky at the 9 to have an advisory board. So I have 8 women around me who are fantastic and whom I can rely on for ideas, advice, and to do work. You may not have a board, you may be an independent, you may be an employee, doesn't matter. You can actually set up a personal board. And these are women around you who you may look up to, who you may value for their advice, who you may have worked with or not, whether this could be advising on the best type of dog food, whether it could be on social media campaigns, whoever. To have a couple of people who you can reach out to and say, hey, I'm struggling with a question, can you help me on this? And knowing they have your best intentions, because not everyone will always have your best intentions. So when you find someone who does, and I'm very lucky to have them both within the membership and within the board, hold on to them and make sure that it's a reciprocal relationship, so you can also be there for them too.
Okay, great advice. I'm going to look at the questions online. Do you think women are genetically better entrepreneurs than men? Ooh, I like.
Well, the FTSE 100 does say that female-founded businesses are more successful, so I guess we'll go with the facts.
Okay, we've answered that one. Yenta is asking, thanks for the interesting panel. Do you have any book recommendations for fellow entrepreneurs, womenpreneurs?
Well, I'm going to suggest one that I read and I loved it. Personal opinion, Shoe Dog, the story of Nike. So I really love that book. It's easy to read. The story is really inspiring to just keep going without thinking about it. Just keep going.
Georgia?
Well, it's maybe less for entrepreneurship, but certainly what I always read to and what I buy for everyone in my network, and I'm sorry for everyone who's already had this, Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez. So you can understand the actual facts that we are facing in terms of inequality. And once you understand the facts, it is very difficult to then go back and look at life any other way.
Okay, going to put that one on my list.
I don't think it's about entrepreneurship really, but it's a book that I keep reading again and again, and it's basically by Alec Leach, and he talks about the world is on fire, but we're still buying shoes. And it's beautiful. It kind of talks about how we need to deal with our relationship and shopping. And as a brand which also, my business is basically to really tell people to shop, it kind of gives a great balance and to understand how I also want to market myself.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. What else? Is Brussels kind to women entrepreneurs?
Honestly, I think my answer's changed. I don't think it was when I started out, but I think that was probably me and me manifesting negativity. But I feel that the moment I reached out for help and I looked for help, I found it. And I'm going to do some shameless advertisement for the 9 right now. Like I said, that I have found a community of women who are ready to kind of uplift you when you're down. I find this place my home. I find it that I find people who have women who have similar problems, and who I can identify with. And Brussels also has a lot of other institutions that you can be a part of, groups that you can be part of, where you can just reach out for help, and you will be given those. So I think it is kind to entrepreneurs.
I never had negative experiences since I first started, especially from the administrative part. So I think for me it worked pretty much well, I have to be honest. And also all the collaborations that I've done here in Belgium, they ask for Brussels, but I'm going to be more general, but they've been always very professional. I never found myself in uncomfortable situations with men or even women, but especially I would think with men, which I have found myself in my other two countries. So, which I'm Greek Italian. So, I have to say, in Belgium, for me, the environment has been much better to grow my business, especially in collaboration, close collaborations with other parties. So for me, it has been pretty well for now.
Wah, wah. Okay. On the other side of the coin, I would argue that this is necessarily a gendered issue. I think in general, entrepreneurship in Brussels is more challenging than in other cities of the world, based on a long history of socioeconomic culture, based on its own, as I said at the very beginning, segmentation in societies. My own experiences have been challenging, and I think that is echoed a lot in the entrepreneurs I know at the Nine. And I'm really delighted that things are changing and that you feel that there is movement there. But let's throw some statistics. The Bold Women by Veuve Clicquot annual report came out last month, and only 7% of female entrepreneurs in Belgium described it as a wonderful experience. So I think that's really everything you need to know. Two, and how can I say this? Well, I'll let the statistics speak for themselves. It is not an easy journey. It is not always clear what you have to do. The taxes are very high in comparison to other countries. There is a huge amount of investment needed, capital and otherwise. You're also dealing with a market that vis-a-vis London, vis-a-vis New York, vis-a-vis Paris is slightly more immature. So you do have to alternate your marketing and strategy, social media strategies. It is not as straightforward as you might expect, which is why it is so important to reach out to the channels that are available, and they are available, and to reach out to people who you trust or who you at least respect their path.
Okay, very good advice. Thank you. Yes, we've got a question here in the audience. So the question is if the lady's got any governmental support in the way of funding or otherwise to get your company going. Radhika?
I'm going to say no because I invested everything that I had. I worked as a lawyer. I saved up and I invested. But having said that, I have applied for an incubator. It's by Hub Brussels. They're a wonderful program. They also help you kind of make your financial plan, if you need help with marketing, if you need help with retail, if you need help with social media management or PR, they're there to give you help. So I just did not when I started, but I am looking for right now, and there are actually a lot of places which you could apply for to ask for help. It's just, I feel like my thinking was that I should do this by myself. And when I have reached a place, then I should ask for help because probably people would be willing to help me then because they've seen that I kind of made it a bit by myself. Please do not do that. Ask for help right in the beginning. I did my own branding, I did my own logo, I did everything. What happened in the end, people love it, but I don't like it because I can see that it's amateur. So ask for it because there is help.
I just received a very small help during COVID, but nothing really relating to for the growth of the business, no.
So we did, and actually this was purely based on the bar and restaurant. So again, spoiler alert, those of you who came and it was a former restaurant, it was not in line with regulation. So to bring the property in line with regulation, we were allowed to, we were enabled with a federal, I think, well no, Brussels region grant. So yes, we had that.
Okay, yes, another question. Okay, so the question is for the people following at home and didn't hear, what is, you want to do everything alone, trying to do anything alone, but what is really the essential thing that you really paid other people to do to help you on your way?
I think, like I said, when I started off doing everything myself. I did photography myself, I did my own branding myself, I did my logo, I learned Photoshop, I learned how to design, because I felt that I'm not a designer, so I have to at least learn things myself before I can ask people for help. because I know I'm very opinionated and I want things to be done a particular way. So even though I need a particular vision, I need to be able to describe my vision to people. But now I pay a photographer to do my photography. I have a graphic designer. She's redoing my branding. I also did my website myself, which I'm not very happy with. But I'm working with somebody. Shopify is really great to do that. You can just like kind of put things up. But still, it doesn't look put together. It does look amateurish. It is not something that I want from my brand. And it's something that I've asked help for. Somebody who kind of puts things together. I'm also looking for PR right now for my brand, because when I started this, the advice that I got was the best PR is you, because you can explain your brand the best. But that's not true. You can explain to people what you actually want and what help you actually want and what is the word that you want out there. You just need to find the right people. And just because you've not found the right people does not mean that you won't, because the fit also takes time to find. So yeah, and that's, I actually do work with a lot of creatives, and I think that's, as a solopreneur, that's been really easy, that I've found, okay, this is the issue that I'm looking for. I'll also look for somebody who's a freelancer and can probably help me with this. I'm looking for somebody who can help me promote. Okay, fine, this is a small part that I need somebody to do, and that's it. Or somebody with like writing my blogs. Do I need help? Yes. And then I'll look out for independents to help me and independent creatives.
On my side, I have actually not done so much on my own from the very beginning. I've invested in photo shoots, video makers, PR agencies, website. Like I've basically delegated the work elsewhere. What I need, because I think you asked what we need to scale up and grow, I need to sell and I need to do even more marketing, because I know that my brand now has not reached so many people to be known enough. So I need to do even more marketing, reach even more people, and sell even more.
Well, I obviously have a great team at 9. So in terms of delegation, a lot of the managers will handle the events, the bar, the kitchen, etc. We work with a very good PR team now who are helping us to scale up in terms of collaborations and partnerships. And that is something that I think once you've reached a certain time or platform, cooperations are extremely helpful. And it is a win-win on both sides. You know, I'm not here trying to shiv someone. I hope they're not trying to take advantage of me, although it does happen. And again, not... I'm the Debbie Downer of the group. When does this happen? But, you know, there have been instances where women in business have come to us and presented very nicely about their product or their services. And there is a sense of, well, you'll let me do this for free because you're a woman, right? I'm like, yeah, but I've got bills to pay. I have employees, I have at the house. And there is sometimes this assumption that we're you know, it's you scratch my back, I scratch yours, which goes a certain way, understandably in this culture, but not all the way. And I think we do have to be assertive, and I use the word assertive there, in saying, no, actually, I'm providing a very good service. I want to provide a high quality service, and that costs. So I'm not going to accept a subpar contract or collaboration just because. And yeah, that takes sadly time and experience. I mean, there are only so many people that you can listen to who tell you this, but once you lived it and experienced it, then you're like, actually, this doesn't feel right to me.
Okay, going to take a very last question now because we're going around to our time. Okay, so round up, what do you feel has been your biggest accomplishment for you personally up until now on your journey?
I'm going, at the risk of sounding a little bit lame, the fact that I started my business. Because it took a really long time for me to quit my job and really start this, because I know that I wanted to do something. I wanted to do something which kind of matters a bit. I wanted to be connected to my country, India, and not just go back there as a tourist, and actually be involved in, you know, India's growth. And the fact that I'm doing this is a huge accomplishment for me, because I feel like I'm doing something every day, and there is something new that's happening every day. And
So for me, I went back and I thought, so of course I had a lot of nice moments that when they happened, I was ecstatic. For example, being in Vogue magazine, or like doing a lot of the magazines afterwards, even those became kind of, okay, so we did another magazine, it's fine. So the one that really made me feel recognized as a company and as a brand and all of my accomplishments. And it was not coming from my family saying, yes, bravo, you did another good job. It was when my university, Bocconi, invited me to go and speak in front of 100 students and present my experience, my brand, and how I'm building a luxury brand. And this has happened now for 4 times that I've been going and I've been invited to speak to students. And when students come down and some say that they already knew me from my TikTok or from my Instagram, which was incredible. Or they say that you're such an inspiration and because I heard you, I want to also launch my own company. This for me, it's the best feeling that I could ever have, and feeling that even my little story, because it's just been 4 years and I don't feel that I have reached yet the success story because it's still an ongoing process. Just listening to these people coming and talk to me and saying how inspiring I am, for me, it's the feeling that can help me go for another 100 years.
Georgia.
I got positive stories. How nice. So for me, obviously, it's been a wild ride the last 2 years. I can't believe that it will be 2 years in September since we opened. And, looking at the figures, of course, it's very impressive. So, I think we've had over nearly 700 applications for membership, now over 400 members and counting. Every day I have new interviews with new members. It's great. There have been a lot of small moments where I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable, that I can't believe this is happening. So royalty is coming, or, we're in a magazine or in the newspaper. And there are just two that really stick in my mind where I think this is an accomplishment. So one, I was at a wedding in London last month for a very good old friend of mine who is in the civil service, and her partner's also in the civil service. So it was a very London-centric audience. And I was just sitting, having a nice dinner with an old friend and his new wife. And we're chatting, and she's based in London, has been for 10 years. And we're talking, what do you do? And, I have a club for women in Brussels. She's like, the Nine? How on earth did you hear about the Nine? She's like, I've seen it all over Instagram. Everyone's talking about it. I was like, who? How? So those moments, I think to myself, wow, sometimes I underestimate the reach that we have, which is always very nice, and the enthusiasm. And then the second story was from a founding member who joined us at the very beginning in September 2021. And obviously no names, but, has had a very difficult last 18 months. And she said to me at the end of last year that the Nine really saved her life, how she'd been through a divorce, quite a messy divorce, the selling of the family home, starting again, changing careers. And I understand that feeling when you are adrift at sea, having something that you can hold on to, or having the stability, a safe space, wonderful women to come to. The fact that, yes, the Nine saved my life is quite a bold statement, and I think many could say, oh, that's such an exaggeration. But for her, and knowing her, I know that's not an exaggeration. And I think to myself, wow, that's, you've touched someone beyond the beautiful aesthetics and the, very, very interesting events. The fact that you have created a space where someone's life is enriched and better is the best accomplishment I could have hoped for.
Oh. So on this beautiful note, we're going to wrap up Startup Stories for this edition. Thank you to everybody that joined here live and online. Thank you so much to our speakers. It's been lovely chatting and hearing your stories. Thank you especially to the Nine for hosting us. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. We are organising the next edition of Startup Social Club on the 7th of July. It's an after networking party that brings together startup founders, young entrepreneurs with potential investors to create valuable new partnerships. It's a fun night with games, drinks, snacks and live DJs. Keep an eye out on our channels for the location and registrations. And catch us again next month for another edition of Startup Stories on June the 14th. Thank you very much.